Yes, so sorry, my name's Adrian Beale. I'm one of the co-founders of Buckley and Beale. We're food importers, distributors and wholesalers. We specialize in importing food from all across North America and South America, importing it into the UK, distributing it here, and also selling it across the rest of the world. And we combine all of that food with a lot of British and Irish small producers as well, supporting retailers such as board there, all of which we've met at this show. So looking to meet these particular buyers, then you are going to come across them here at Speciality. So if that's part of your target audience, then you're in luck. They're going to be here. Knowing that I was going to be talking here, what I've done, just things from my point of view, just so you're not getting things from my perspective, an exhibitor and buying for 11, 12 years at various shows across the world, what I did was actually email all of the buyers that you see up here and get their perspectives. So the talk that I'm going to give you now is based on their answers, what they're looking for at the show, what products they're looking for, the experience that they want to have. Because the difference between the objectives that the exhibitors want and the objectives that the buyers want are often very, very different objectives between buyers and exhibitors. So what you guys and what I've always tried to achieve when coming to these shows is to meet new and existing customers, obtain their contact details so I can follow up with them, present, sample and tell my story or the producer's story, which from my point of view as a wholesaler when I've got hundreds of different products and producers is very difficult. You have limited time, but you want to try and extend that, hand out brochures and samples and try and build the brand on behalf of my wholesalers. Selections on there, brilliant, thank you. Or if you're just a single producer yourself, you want to build that brand. That conflicts in a lot of cases with what the buyer is actually trying to achieve. Yes, they want to find new products, but most of them do not want to spend the whole day at the show. They've got work to do. They will try and get around the entire show in 1 to 2 hours or even quicker if possible. They really don't want to get into long conversations. They don't want to carry much, if anything at all. And they certainly don't want to give out their contact details if it's a product that they're not interested in. In a lot of cases, they won't do that anyway. So going into any show with those or with that level of understanding is going to help you enormously when you see a buyer or you recognize a name badge coming up to your stand. Appreciate what they're trying to get out of the show, and I absolutely guarantee that will give you a much higher success rate. 3 things to do. Pre-show, during show and post-show. The pre-show is, for me, arguably the most important thing because this is where things can go wrong unless your preparation is really up to scratch. Getting the stand design right is absolutely crucial. Anyone can make a stand look pretty and you can hemorrhage money on exhibitor stand design companies if you're not careful. You don't need to do that. Getting the PR right, and I know that Georgie's going to be talking about PR and marketing coming up. Making sure that you invite everybody. I still speak to producers that have been coming to shows for years and they forget to do that one. And then little extras that you might find useful, like ordering badge scanners, which I didn't do probably for the first 4 or 5 years, but business cards are kind of non-existent now. So having that scanner is really quite useful. Expensive, but worth doing. And then making sure that you've got parking sorted, that kind of stuff. So we'll quickly go on to stand design. Depending on how big your stand is, you want to establish beforehand whether you want people to come onto your stand or whether you're happy with them standing in the aisle and having a conversation there. What's at eye level? If the stand's going to be busy or you're on a corner and there's lots of people sort of walking by, it's really no good having all of your signage and pretty pictures and so on from waist height or down because they're not going to be seen. Have as much as you can from waist height up and go as high as you possibly can as well. Make sure you've got plenty of room for storage. You will see at this show, and it happens every show, everywhere around the world, bags and clutter and stuff, and it just wrecks otherwise what could be a really nice, attractive looking stand. So make sure you've got that covered as well. Sampling, however many tasting spoons and cups you think you're going to need, double it because you will run out. And make sure that your message on the stand, clearly, if you're a brand new product and a new producer, that eye level bit, who you are, what you do. That's it. Clever graphics and so on, because there are going to be hundreds of people all with different logos and colors and graphics and pictures and things like that, you will just get lost in this white noise of color. If you were going to do anything, I would say go simple. I'll show you a picture of our stand. We only have 2 colors on our stand, and that's blue and white. So that's from one show that we did earlier this year. We keep our stand nice and open. There's 3 points where you can get on and off the stand. If someone does want to come on, they can do. But from a psychological point of view, they know they can get off the stand again easily. There's a lot of stands. You see big open spaces. The person stood at the back like that. The stand could be the size of this room. Nobody's going near that stand if someone stood there like a security guard. Doesn't matter what's going on in the middle. So we like this sort of bar scenario where people can walk up to it. You can have a conversation over the bar. The buyer's got their space. The producer's got their space. They can come and go as they please. And if they want to walk onto the stand, they can be invited on. That works very well for us. And you'll see at the back there, below waist height, is where all our storage is, which is kind of not seen from the front. So that works very well. The PR side of things, it pretty much says it all there. Use all of the applications and things that are on offer by the organisers here to get your message out there. You can upload things to their website. They will be distributed to the journalists and so on that are coming to the show, because the journalists will often come in, grab that and go. They're not going to spend time walking around the stand. So really don't expect any journalists to come up and talk to you at the show. If they do, treat it as a bonus. Invite your database, but make sure that when you're sending an email out, it's not simply come and see us at the show, because they're going to get thousands of those. So try and have a message in that as well. Give them a reason for coming. Include a picture, a special offer, something for them to actually come to your stand, and give it a call to action. The Americans are very good. They invite cocktails, beers, drinks, that kind of stuff, sort of towards the end of the show. Give someone a reason for coming over. Otherwise, your email will just get lost in the midst of hundreds of other emails as well. Extras, I've mentioned badge scanners. The checklist is again one that even we still fall down on after doing this for 15 years. Scissors, pens, staplers is the one that we always forget. Sellotape for when you're breaking down the stand and you're boxing everything back up again. There's 100 things like that. If your checklist is only about 25 or 30 things, you haven't done it right. It should be about 100. You'll be amazed how many things that you'll forget. However long you think it's going to build your stand, double it. However long you think it's going to break down the stand, double it. It's carnage, as I'm sure Sarai will tell you at the end of a show, because everyone tries to leave at the same time as quickly as possible. You've paid a lot of money to be here. Take your time. It's fine. Don't worry about it, but just allow plenty of time for it so it's not too stressful. During the show, there are some definite do's and don'ts with shows. What to listen for, buying signals, and the little extras, getting your sales sheets right, I'll come on to as well. So the do's, I don't know if you can, hopefully you can all see this at the back there, because it is quite small. I was hoping this would be a little bit higher. Do look busy, but don't smile too much. I don't know if you've ever heard of Darren Brown, the guy on TV, the psychologist guy. Great piece of advice if you ever want to avoid someone sitting next to you on a train is not to sort of try and hide like that, but to sit there and give this really inane grin, because no one's going to come anywhere near you. They're not going to sit next to you. It's the same at stands. You'll see it here. You'll see it at every show. Someone will stand there. They'll see you buy. Come on over. Not going to happen. So just kind of be relaxed. Pretend to do something. People will come on over. Do keep it clean and tidy. Get to the point as fast as you can, bearing in mind, again, the buyer's objectives is to get round as fast as possible. Qualify them, but time it right. And I put that on there for a very good reason. If a buyer comes over and you recognise their badge, or you don't see their badge or whatever, don't go straight into asking them, who you are, what shop have you got, how many branches, how many stores, that kind of stuff, because they're getting that from everybody else. What they want to do is work out who you are, what your product is, how much it is, how many come in a case, where they can buy it from, and when is it going to be ready. So give them all that information first. If they like it, then you can start asking them a few more questions once they've opened up. But don't think this is a one-way traffic. This has to come from them first. Otherwise, you'll just alienate them. You can read all the other stuff on there. The don'ts are fairly obvious. One of my pet hates is staring at name badges. If I'm out there buying as well, you don't want to have a conversation where someone's just looking down at you like that, trying to work out what shop you're from. Please, seriously, don't do that. Can I help you, and would you like to try, are ones that I also tell my staff to avoid because everybody else is doing it. I try to keep it fairly open. Help yourself. That kind of thing. That's not asking them a question. That's just saying, if you're sampling, here, help yourself. Oh, that's our chocolate one, that's our new one over there, as opposed to the standing there with a tray. Would you like to? It's just more effective to keep it fairly open. What to listen for if you're new to selling, there are some definite hooks which are a very good indication if the buyer is serious or not. If they're asking to take anything away, bearing in mind they really don't want to be carrying much, that's a good one. If they ask to take a photo, they're not going to want to do that without good reason. Where else do you sell your product? They want to know who their competitors might be. Is exclusivity available? Is a fantastic one. And one of my favourites, minimum order quantity and lead time. Any of those 5 questions, and if you get more than 2 or 3 of them, fantastic, you're in, at which point don't start putting them under lots of pressure. It's highly unlikely you're going to get a purchase order on the day from some of the major customers that you want. They're going to want to take stuff away and digest it, so definitely don't push that one. And my little tip at the bottom there, which is, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got, was don't ignore any junior buyers that you get, because certainly in the larger multiples, the turnaround of staff is so fast and so quick, that junior buyer could be the head of the category for the product that you're selling within 12 to 18 months. So treat everybody as though they are the number one person you wanted to see at this show. Extras, don't forget your product pricing, and I'll see it happen, and the sales sheets. Rather than handing out a big thick brochure, I recommend just A4 pages, good product photo of the product in its packaging. If you're selling something like granola, it's no good putting a picture of the granola in a bowl with some strawberries and stuff on it. That's not how it looks on the shelf. So if you've got to do a sales sheet or need any presentation, picture of the product, how it looks, and then all the information underneath with case sizes, price if you want to, that kind of stuff. Pricing is something I get asked more often than not from a lot of producers. Sorry, yeah, you have a question? What, so that it's nice and visible? If you've got a price that you really think is going to be the main attractor, then I would say, sure, why not? Because you've got a split second to catch someone's eye as they're walking around being bombarded by information from other stands. So if that's one of your unique selling points, why not? Absolutely, make a song and dance about it. But just be careful that it's then not cheapening your product. It needs to tie in with everything else that you're doing and the look of your stand, the look of your product and so on. Otherwise, it's just going to jar. It's not going to look right. Absolutely, yeah. You will need to quote prices to people. And this is where getting this right is so, so important, and we see so many small producers getting it wrong. They're not allowing the margins for certain retailers. So delis, on average, are looking for 25 to 40% margin. Some of your more specialist retailers, we supply M&S, 37% is about their average, which is why I've kept it fairly open, 35 to 39. But if you want to get into the 4 London department stores, the Selfridges, Harrods, Harvey Nichols, Fortnums, Ocado, Lakeland, those retailers are all much, much closer to the 50% mark. So if you've got a product that's new to market, you need to decide very quickly where you want that retail price to sit and then work everything back from there. Otherwise, you could very, very easily end up setting a precedent for where the price is and then basically kill yourself for getting into some of the retailers that want 50%. Because if they see a product is already out on the shelves for £2.99 and you give them a cost price of £2, they're going to want to sell it for £4. But clearly they can't, and then they're not going to buy it when they see everyone else selling it at £2.99. So understanding that structure is crucially important. The one bit that's missing from that is then wholesalers such as myself. Most of us want 25% margin as well if we are going to be your route to market to get into those retailers. A very good ratio for specialty food is 1 to 6. If the product is sitting on the shelf at £3, the cost it costs you to make should be about 50 pence. And that's pure cost. If you keep that 1 to 6 ratio in mind, then that gives you enough room for you to make a profit and cover all of your marketing activity. And it gives the wholesaler their margin, and it gives the retailer their margin as well. If you're nearer the £1 to £3 mark, then that's going to be a struggle.
If we're producing price lists, obviously, given the different margins, we'll be selling places at different prices. So
Yeah.
Where should the pricing sit with the prices that we're giving out to?
Well, you need to decide which retailers you're going for. If you're going for Tesco's, for example, and those kind of retailers, then you don't need to worry about what Harrods want. If you're going for just sort of specialty delis, then anywhere around the 25 to 40 will be fine. The London department stores, and to a certain degree Ocado, don't mind selling at a bit of a premium because they're more premium retailers anyway. You're not going to be able to control the exact selling price with all of the retailers anyway. You just kind of need to understand where that sits at the moment and allow for that. But what you charge your customers is entirely up to you. Put it this way, we don't quote retail prices or recommended retail prices for any of our products from any of our producers. We give a cost price, say, there you go, do what you like with it.
But we supply all of those with the same product. So
Congratulations.
I recommend people in the room do.
Mm. What do you mean the cost price is too expensive?
No, the selling price to the retailer is too expensive sometimes, depending on the retailer. So we moved away from giving out price lists on our staff, and I'm just curious as to...
I think that's quite unusual. To be at a trade show and to not quote or give out prices is very unusual. If you can make that work for you, then fantastic. But in most cases, that's one of the first questions that a buyer's going to want to know is, how much is it? At the very least, what is it selling for? If you've managed to make that work for you, then yeah, very well done. But that's I would say, is a risky strategy. But like I say, if you can make it work, fantastic. But I would expect most buyers are going to want to know how much the product is. This is some of the information that we put on our sales sheets because that's what the buyers tell us that they want to know. So product description, weight, case size, unit price, case price. So yeah, if you take a picture of that, carry on. Yes. Yeah, I think Kara's going to sort that out. So yeah, you can download them.
Everybody, sorry, I should have said earlier on, there is a link on the agenda that you have on your chair to the website in the exhibitor zone. All of the slides will be available. Apologies, I didn't make that clearer earlier on today.
Cool. No problem at all. The last slide I'm going to finish with is a consolidated feedback of all of the email replies that I got back from all of the buyers when I asked them the simple question, what is it you look for? What are you trying to achieve from new products? And also, what are your pet hates? What do you see time and time again small producers do that really annoys you that we can tell them and hopefully that they can avoid at this show? And it was some interesting feedback. Obviously, I can't mention the individual sites because some of this was actually quite personal. But all 4 London department stores, 2 or 3 quite specific health food stores, 2 supermarkets, you can probably guess the online retailer, but a couple of catalogue retailers as well, and then a handful of cook shops that we deal with. The top 3 or 4 bits there are kind of in order, but some of them gave very different answers, but it's pretty accurate to how they rate things. But I'll just go to the next one because there's one thing that comes up by everybody, and that is the packaging. That for them, for all the buyers that I deal with, and for most of them that come here, if that's wrong, it doesn't matter how good the food that's inside it is, you won't get that first sale. The first sale is all about the packaging, but people come back for what's inside. Is a bit of an old but well-known and very, very correct phrase when it comes to food. The one thing, actually I'm going to ask you, what's the one thing that's not up there? When I ask the buyers what's the most important thing that they look for in specialty food, is the quality of the food. And I had to go back to them and say, do you realise you've missed this off? And they all came back to me and said, but you're in the specialty food business. We expect it to be good. It's just a given. It's harsh, but they say you shouldn't be here exhibiting if it doesn't already taste fantastic, because that would show us that you haven't done your research, you haven't looked at competitors, and you're in a market that you're really probably too early for. So they just think that's a given, but everything else you can work on. The packaging, clearly, they rate very highly, especially the online guys, because that's the first experience. You can't even pick something up if it's just online or in a catalogue. So that has to be absolutely stand out. And if that's not your background, then I absolutely recommend, and I know it costs money, but get a design agency to do it. You might be very good cooks or whatever, but if that's not your background, you're probably not going to make the most of getting the design absolutely on the money and get the most you possibly can from your product. I'll finish on a couple of pet hates. One of my favourites, this is so you, insert name of shop, Harrods, Selfridges, Waitrose. Please avoid that one. The buyers absolutely hate it. One of the buyers actually started venting in the email reply back to me and said, I'm the buyer, I know what's so me. I'm like, right, okay. And in terms of doing follow-ups, which is, again, one of the most important things from doing this, it's not Field of Dreams, unfortunately. Just turning up at a show is not going to make people come to you, and it certainly isn't going to have them follow you up afterwards. But don't phone them at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning and ask them what they thought, especially straight after the show. Give them a little bit of time.
What is the reasonable time?
I like Tuesdays at 11 o'clock or Thursdays at 3 o'clock. And I know that sounds... And I'm actually deadly serious with that. There's been a whole bunch of research on emails in particular. What is the best time to send an email? Tuesday, 11 o'clock is pretty much now known as the best time. Whoever it is that you're dealing with is in a sort of professional frame of mind. They've done their Monday morning stuff. That's okay. For me, I like Thursday, 3 o'clock. They've had lunch. They're looking forward to the weekend, but they're still in business mode. I don't like Fridays. I don't like Mondays, Wednesdays. But we've monitored it. If you have a large database of customers and you do newsletters through MailChimp, that kind of stuff, try it. Send a newsletter on a Monday, then on a Tuesday, then on a Wednesday, and see your open rate. And I absolutely guarantee Tuesday and Thursday will go like that. I think that's it from me. So just to summarise then, make sure whatever message you're communicating, you actually have something to say. Ensure the stand is buyer-friendly, not exhibitor-friendly, and personalise the follow-ups. I'm also not a fan of the generic email straight after the show where the person, or if I'm the recipient, is clearly BCC. Send me an email, Adrian, thanks for visiting the stand, and make reference to something specific that you spoke about. So that person then knows it's personal to them as well, would be my top tips. Takes a long time, but it absolutely is worth doing. And have fun and hopefully lots of success.